Hello, everyone. This is Brandon K. Hedgepeth, and I want to welcome you all here to the Tansson Talks show. I am so excited to be here with you all on episode 14 of this series. It's been such an honor doing all of this, and I can't wait to continue on. So please welcome my guest here today, Peyton Buckley. Thank you so much for being here today.
Happy to be here, Brandon.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here and to really get to know you. And so, first of all, how are you doing so far today?
I'm great. I'm a little bit tired, but I can still put the spunk in anything. That's kind of my speciality.
Well, I'm so glad to hear it. So, before we get started, are you able to introduce yourself to the watching and listening audience here today?
Right. So, as Brandon did mention, my name is Peyton Buckley. I am a student at Old Dominion University. I'm the class of 2025. I'm a sophomore right now. I guess some things about me. I work at WODU Studios within the web center within ODU and the heartbeat of ODU, Old Dominion University, as we like to say on the radio. I am an avid gamer in my pastime, along with a history enthusiast. So I like different eras of history. I am also a film student here at Old Dominion, and I'm just kind of an overall really talky person. I like to talk a lot. So that's a little bit about me. I can't really think of anything else.
Oh, good. Well, we love to chat here on the show, and I'm just, like I said, I'm so excited to speak with you and really get to meet you. So I guess for my first question, I did actually want to ask, so we were just speaking a little bit ago about your time within the COVID-19 pandemic, the time that we thought was going to sort of be around for quite a while. Well, it was. And so was such is. And so I guess, where were you during the initial part of that time in March of 2020?
So in March of 2020, I was just, I remember when COVID started, I was just ending, it was the end of my junior year. So it was the end of my junior year, and I was back up in Novo. It was the end of my junior year of high school. And I remember it vividly because I was just about to go on spring break. And then we had spring break, and then we didn't go back to school because everything shut down. So we waited and we waited and we waited. And the time that I got back to school was around, honestly, it was around April, the middle of April, April 16th to 20th. And they were like, well, we're going to finish the school year out with online. And nobody had done online before. They hadn't really figured it out. They had kind of given the teachers this, hey, here's your Google Meets and here's your Google Classroom and figure it out. And the teachers, most of my teachers at the time were, up in their 50s, 60s, almost 70. I mean, they were older teachers. They didn't know what the heck they were doing. I remember one vivid story, which is, we were in my history class, and my history teacher was trying to show us a screen. And instead of showing us the screen he wanted, he showed us first the grade book, so everybody got to see their grade for free. And then he showed us an email from his wife. So that was a little bit interesting. So a lot of the teachers didn't really know what was going on, didn't really know how to kind of work this online. But all us kids knew, because we all grew up within the digital age, and it was an epiphany. It was an oasis for us. So the online kind of became us teaching them how to use our domain in a sense. And it became a little bit of a silly game that we would play. But then over the summer, a lot of things were still shut down. My parents, for example, didn't really let me go outside. I was inside A lot of the time I was watching television. I was just kind of being a teenager during a summer, so just being a bum, really. Um, and eventually they did open up my work. I worked at a pool during my high school years. I still kind of do. Um, they finally opened it up, but it was a lot of cleaning, a lot of this and that. And we were considered and deemed essential workers, which was great because everybody, really respected us and really kind of, we would get free, like we still did, but we would get like free food. We would get free compliments. People would give us extra tips out of their own pockets just kind of because they liked that we had opened the pool, and they liked it because nothing else was open. Everything was, wearing masks, wearing this and that. So it was a little bit of a crazy time. And on top of this, on top of, work and kind of just being at home most of the time, I had started a YouTube channel, kind of for my own entertainment. It didn't really go anywhere. I mean, I produced a few videos here and there. I got to dabble in editing my own videos and producing kind of my own content, which was actually what made me switch to becoming a cinema major, and what made me switch to liking kind of doing this stuff with WODU and becoming a film major and going on podcasts, going on a radio show. All this kind of stuff started with the pandemic because it gave me something to do. It gave me something where I could express my voice and issues that I believed in on platforms that, to the most part, I hadn't really used or utilized that much. Until the pandemic, I only watched YouTube videos. I didn't produce them, or I didn't, post on my Instagram that much. I didn't use my phone to take pictures. I didn't, use Snapchat to communicate with people. I was a very kind of secluded kind of person. But all of that changed when the pandemic hit, because then all the social media and all the different platforms, they kind of just thrusted themselves upon me. And I was like, I had an epiphany where I was like, this is what I want to do in life, was all this crazy stuff. So yeah, that was kind of my pandemic experience. I started college in September of 2021, I think, or August-ish. So we were all still in masks and things like that. But it was definitely a different environment. Things were still online. Things were kind of going back in person, but not really for the most part. And then that December or whatever, I had discovered WODU, and I was like, oh my gosh. So that was kind of the pandemic experience for me, at least.
Wow, well, that's really interesting, though. It sounds like, that throughout time you at least made the most of it, and like, you did a little bit of everything. I mean, from your YouTube channel to going back to working at the pool, and I believe you're a lifeguard.
Yeah, I did lifeguarding ever since freshman year. My mom, or my parents in general, but mostly my mom, wanted me to kind of get a summer job, because my brother didn't really have many summer jobs when he was in high school. And she was like, no, you want to earn money. You want to make a living, you want to have experience for when you go out into the work world. And I was like, okay, sure. So I got myself hired as a lifeguard, and, then I got a pool operator's license the next year. And then after that, I started doing management positions, things like that. And I probably am going to do it this summer as well. It's a great experience. Lifeguarding, sure, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of kind of knowing what to do in different situations, and it might be stressful at times. But it's an experience like no other. It definitely provides this kind of experience that later on in life you can actually use a lot of that experience. Maybe if you're in a management position, or if you're just a lifeguard, you have life-saving experience or life-saving, training that So if you have to go save somebody in the water, if they drown and nobody else knows how to swim, or if somebody has a cardiac arrest, you know how to do CPR. You know how to save, or at least prevent, or prevent someone from having those events until the professionals get there. I mean, you're kind of like that, tertiary or secondary kind of line of defense before the professionals.
Yeah, so I'm really glad that you are able to have that sort of experience. And out of curiosity, for you, what does being a lifeguard, I guess, mean to you personally and your overall journey and personality?
So being a lifeguard for me, at least, especially with the company that I worked with, was I worked at a local pool. It was the pool that I grew up at. It was the pool that I was on the swim team for the longest time. It was the pool that if they had a problem, I was the assistant manager and they knew me by name. They didn't have to say, "Oh, hey, you." No, they could say, "Hey, Peyton, can I talk to you for a second?" Because everybody in that pool knew who each other was. The lifeguards were hired from that pool, so they knew the other lifeguards. Nobody was a stranger. So it was a nice experience. I've only ever done 1 or 2 saves. I won't go into the depth about them, mostly because that's kind of more confidential stuff. But I've had, my experience of, seeing somebody in distress and jumping into action. I will say it's a very rewarding experience when you do that, because you finally know that your training that you train for every year, and that stuff that you say in your mind a lot of the time, "Oh, I'm never going to use it." No, you are going to use it eventually, because one day in that particular, time and experience that you're a lifeguard, there's that one day that you see somebody that's in trouble and they need your help, and it just kicks back in. It's like riding a bicycle. You just know what to do. And you in my case, you blow your whistle 3 times, you jump down from your lifeguard stand, you jump in that pool, and you go do what you have to do. So it's really rewarding, and it's a fun experience. Can be stressful, but it's a fun experience in general.
Well, I'm so glad that you're able to have that experience. And going a little bit further now, so as we mentioned, you are a student at Old Dominion University, I believe sophomore year, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah, and so how has your experience been thus far as a film major?
As a film major, it's been interesting. I will say that, going back kind of to when I was doing my own content on YouTube, I didn't really have to listen to anybody but myself. And now you have to work with groups, and you have to, take on different roles. And I had experience in it, but when you fully dive into it, it's just completely different. Like you have to communicate, you have to work with a group, you have to be, a lot more patient with people instead of, doing your own thing, and you can do it as fast and as quick as you want. And you can do it your own special way. Now with the group, you have to kind of give and take. And so being a film major is definitely an experience, but it gives you that knowledge that you can take. And then when you go into the film industry, if that's what you want to do, if you want to go into the film industry, or you go into the television industry, or just any of the industry of media, it definitely kind of prepares you for that working with people who don't always agree with you, but then they'll ask you for your opinion. A lot of the time, they'll ask you for your opinion because, film is always about somebody's vision. And visions can change, and people put input in when they want a different perspective on their vision. Of course, their vision is the way it's going to go, but they'll always ask for that opinion, and then they'll take your opinion and add it to their vision, and then it becomes their vision or your vision. So it's an interesting experience.
Yeah, I really love the way that you put that. And I mean, it is so true, though. I mean, I feel like it's almost like film is almost like a community effort in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, while one person may conceive the idea or come up with the initial idea, it usually takes like the effort of a community, and like one person. Well, for a feasible, well-produced project, one person can't easily. I have to say easily because I theoretically one person can do a whole film, but yeah, but for a well-produced one, it's hard to not have some sort of involvement, even if it's just for moral support. I mean, it really takes the community to help make it happen.
Yeah, it kind of goes on that saying that it takes a village to do a certain task. In this case, it takes a lot of people to produce the films that we see on screen. When those credits roll at the end of the movie, it's not just sure the director's usually at the beginning of the film or at the end, and they're on top, and the executive producers are on top. But the people that pull a lot of the weight and a lot of the muscle, they're in these big categories with all these big, they're very tiny names that you can barely see, but they're in these large categories because it's all these people that make one film happen. And you got to truly appreciate what they do. And something my parents always taught me to do. And this is sometimes just due to what am I trying to think of? Due to wanting to see the spoiler or the Easter egg at the end of the movie. But my parents always taught me to sit through a movie, sit through the credits, appreciate what those people have done. And I encourage everybody always sit through the end, sit through the credits, because you might be surprised at what you see on the locations that they go to, or they used they used this type of animation or this something like this. Always the credits always surprise people, and I don't think people appreciate what the credits are actually showing. They don't just show, oh hey, these are the big stars, this and that, and you should leave after the lights go up. No, stay a little. You might actually find something really interesting.
That is so true, and I completely agree on that front. I mean, because even being like within this industry, even for a small portion of it, I mean, knowing that people like put so much of their hard work into making like the product that you're going to see, like I always do my best to make sure that I can see the credits like all the way through and see, like, if I'm going to sit down and watch a film or a TV show, I want to see it beginning to end. And
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and actually, one thing that actually disappoints me is that when certain streaming services in particular, like, lowered the credits, or, like, when the movie has went through, like, the major stars credit, it just, like, turns off the credits. Where, no, I want to actually sit and watch all the way through up until the distribution production company's logo shows up at the very end. I want to make sure that, yeah, I'm able to see it and sort of, like, pay respect to their work.
Yeah, because you got to appreciate at the end that they're not robots. It's a human being behind the computer that does something. So yeah, I do agree that streaming services, everybody's so used to, and I'm guilty of this myself. I'm guilty of just moving on to the next movie. And I still but I try to appreciate. I try to take into account what they've done. And so, if you ever buy a Blu-ray from like Redbox or something like that, try and go watch the behind the scenes. Behind the scenes are actually really more interesting than most people think. It's actually really funny too. Sometimes they have blooper reels. The blooper reels, honestly, that is just the best part on it because it's funny. Duh. It's blooper reels for a reason. But it also kind of shows you the production behind it at the same time. That, these people that you see on screen, they're humans like the rest of us. They will screw up. They will say the wrong thing. And, that some directors even, they'll pay tribute to the cast and into the film crew in the movie by having them in the movie somehow or in the TV show. Some directors do that, and I find it phenomenally funny. One that I can probably mention now is Mel Brooks. He's famous and known for kind of including a little bit of like cast, or not cast, but a little bit of the crew in the film by, like, I don't know, slicing the boomstick operator off with a sword or something stupid like that. It's a stupid little stunt, but it shows that, they're filming on a set. They're not filming on a location either. So it's just kind of a funny little tidbit.
Yeah, but I completely agree. And even like, on a smaller scale, like doing the podcast, one thing I always say, someone had asked me what's my favorite part of doing all this. I'm like, the conversations both before and after. It's like, I always feel like the best part is the part that's not recorded. Like, and I mean, it's true. I mean, like, we were having a great conversation, like, right before we started recording.
And we almost forgot to record in general. So that's a fair point.
Yeah, and, but that's the thing about it is I like having these personal conversations and being able to, to speak with people and get to know, each other. And speaking of which, so how's your experience, like, being a part of WODU Studios?
Well, the experience is amazing. I will put that out there. Everybody, we were kind of talking about this before we started recording, which is, it's kind of a chaotic, a little mess, but it's a fun, chaotic little mess. A way I would describe WODU, if I had to use like an example, would kind of be like, we're kind of like a Jack in the Box where you wind us up and then we pop out of nowhere and you've forgotten for the most part that we exist. And then we show up and and then everybody's like, oh yeah, they're a thing. And so, yeah, that's kind of the best part about it. And I mean, another best part is the conversations we have like during lunchtime or just whenever we're in the studio. Some of the conversations are just so edgy, but also they're so, relating back to real topics in the world. And, that's the beauty about it, is that we're not all strangers. We all get a real sense of each other. We all get a real sense of kind of like it's a family that isn't a real family, but we treat each other like family. We support each other. We come to do projects for each other. We come to kind of laugh, to kind of play, to kind of, if somebody's feeling down, you go and comfort. It's a really dynamic contrast of this, just like family, and you gotta appreciate it, and then you gotta love it. And by the end, I mean, I think personally, when I graduate, I'm not going to forget anybody that I know from the studio, and that's just because they mean so much to me. Like, they're a part of me.
I absolutely love that sentiment. And I'm actually going to, take what you just said and flip it into a question by saying, so for right now, you are, of course, attending Old Dominion University. And you mentioned earlier that I believe you are from, or at least were in Northern Virginia. And so I guess for you, how is your sort of college experience community here? Like, you're a part of like WODU Studios, for instance, I'm sure potentially other organizations and and everything within the Norfolk, Virginia area. So how have you made this, I guess, experience happen for your college experience?
Let's see. I mean, I'll say that Norfolk is a lot different than Northern Virginia. If you ask, I always have this thing that I tell Northern Virginia people, that I always tell them that people down in the 757 really don't think you exist. Like, they don't think people in Nova like are a thing. We don't exist. But then when we come down, everybody's like, where are you from again? Like, I don't know what that is or where that is. And it's kind of an interesting experience, kind of telling them, oh yeah, past Richmond, there's like a thing up there that's not DC. And so, I mean, it's an interesting experience. I do love Norfolk. It's a great place. I love it down here. It's, it's not as Cold as it is up in Nova. A lot of the time, at least maybe 85% of the time, it's freezing up there, or really close to it. It's never like warm until it gets like to like May ish. So it's kind of nice to um, have that warmth. But it's also nice to, I mean, I love Norfolk personally, being by the naval base. It kind of gives me a sense of being at home a little bit, but it also gives me a sense of I can get away from all the politics and all, kind of being up with the people who, for the most part, they're all politics, they're all military, they're all, they're not really down to earth people. They don't really get a lot of the normal day-to-day operations of people because they all work in the Washington, D.C. area, or they work around it as contractors. I mean, both my parents work as contractors. So going down to Norfolk and Williamsburg and like that area, this kind of 757 area, it's a different experience for them because they get to experience what I guess you could say normal people are like. And so to me, Norfolk feels a lot like home. But also it doesn't feel like home at the same time because I don't have to listen to politics. Down here, I can totally throw the politics out the window and I don't have to listen to it constantly because up there, that's all they do. So it's nice to get away from it.
Yeah, I love to hear that that's like your main point for that, but nevertheless though that you're able to sort of make this like your college home and somewhere that even years from now that you're able to visit and be like, hey, this is where I used to go, this is where I used to be, and hopefully everything's still going well and thriving here.
Yeah, no, and I'll be honest, when I graduate college and wherever I go and things like that, Virginia's probably going to be my kind of like this area, especially kind of Norfolk, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, Williamsburg, 757 area. It's definitely going to be that kind of like, I want to live here, but I also, I need a place to kind of work. So this might become my vacation spot for my vacation years, and then it might become the place that I live permanently. Never know. But I kind of hope for it because it's a nice area. I like the people. I like, kind of where I'm at. And it's not, it's not permanently city. Up in Nova, it's kind of always bustling, things like that. Down here, it's a little bit more laid back. So it's kind of more my style.
That's a really interesting way to put that. And out of curiosity, how long did it take you to really like get adjusted to everything, within the Hampton Roads 757 region and get adjusted? And how did you even choose to go to ODU?
I chose to go to ODU actually for a different reason than I actually settled on, which was I originally wanted to go. I still do want to go into the Navy, but I originally wanted to join the NROTC program down here, and I tried and I tried and I tried. And to no avail, I did not make it in. But ODU was the place that I wanted to go. It was kind of a little bit away from home. So I could kind of, I could still travel up back to my family in Nova. But at the same time, I'm still far away that, my parents they can't drag my butt to church every day like they did my brother for so many years. They dragged his butt to church every day. I didn't want that. So I wanted to pick some place that I could still drive up, but I still was far enough away that I'm kind of out of their reach in a sense. But how long it took me to kind of adjust to the way everybody does things around here, that almost took me a year. When I first got here, I was very secluded. I didn't really want to be around anybody. The only person I really talked to was my roommate at the time, who I still talk to today. I still talk to my previous roommate. And yeah, I spent a lot of my time in my dorm. I didn't really go out. When I did go out, I didn't really talk to people, but then I met a group of friends that were from Nova, and I'm actually going to rent a place with them off campus next year. And I still talk to them, and I kind of felt, because we were from all over the place. Some of us were from Virginia Beach and Chesapeake. Some of us were from Nova. Some of us were from Richmond area. Some of us were even from Blacksburg. We got a guy named Brady who's from Blacksburg, Virginia Tech. And so it was kind of, this welcoming group. And I didn't fall in love with them, but I felt, kind of that I was at home with them. And I kind of felt that I understood and I knew kind of the way they acted. So I started, kind of transitioning towards the way they acted, and it worked out.
Well, that's really interesting, to hear about that and the adjustment period, but that you were also able to find your own crowd, and that even though it may have taken a little bit for all to get adjusted, get some of the things figured out, but you nevertheless were able to figure it out and sort of make it your own.
Yeah, and it was definitely a process. This is actually a really funny story. The first day of class for me was I had an 9 a.m. Spanish class. And the first person that I ever talked to, I ever greeted, her name was Galen Taylor. And she was sitting over by Baton Arts and Letters. And she was talking to some individuals. And she was talking about something, I don't remember the exact subject, but I wanted to chime in. And I spoke up. And I got, engaged. And so it's interesting. So Dalen, if you ever do watch this, thank you, because you were the first person I ever talked to besides my roommate. And you got me to somehow open up and experience new things. And I don't think I would be in the same position I am today without her engaging me somehow. And that's all it took was her engaging me, and here we are today.
Well, I like that sort of shows that, people can really, help make a difference, whether they know it or not, and just simply letting people be a part of a conversation may make more of an impact to someone than you really would imagine.
Yeah, that is honestly true. A lot of people, I honestly thought when I got to college that that I wouldn't, people wouldn't really have an impact on me because I would be so secluded. I would be kind of by myself. But in the end, I was wrong. And that happens.
Yeah, but at least, you're able to learn, and it sounds like you are quite enjoying your experience, and I'm just glad that you're, sort of able to make the most of it. And so I like too that, you mentioned that, of course, you are, majoring in film production, but you also have some other interests, especially within WODU as well.
Yeah, so I do. I've been on the Mackay Kirkwood show. I've done that, I think, twice now, maybe once. I don't remember. I think it's twice. I've done some projects with Dalen. I've done some projects with Dalen that have been kind of fun. Besides that, of course, I'm on your podcast. And besides that, I go to their events. I do, we just did Jeopardy maybe a couple of nights ago, which was really fun. Though I will admit I get very aggressive when I start playing games. But that's just something about me that I always have to tone down some. And then besides that, that's kind of, the things I do at WODU. And then outside of that, video gamer, history buff, and just kind of overall, I guess I've had my friends kind of call me a clown because I like to do silly things and I say stupid things here and there. Um, so yeah.
Well, that's nevertheless, that's still a lot that you are, that you're doing, and it just sounds so fun that that you're able to do all that and have like, I mean, like you said, like such a fun experience. And actually, I did want to circle back since you just mentioned a Jeopardy event, which I know that the gaming division WODU put on. So, are you able to tell us a little bit about that for anyone who is listening and is like, whoa, 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 what does that mean?
So yeah, the Jeopardy event was put on by the WODU kind of gaming division, I guess you could say, which include Bryce and Mackay, and others. Um, and yeah, so it's basically we were in teams. So it's not entirely like Jeopardy, kind of like Jeopardy meets Family Feud, kind of fusion. Um, and so yeah, we were on teams. We had buzzers, and we did different topics. There were 3 rounds, if I remember correctly. I didn't stay for all of it. I had to go because I had to do we had to do a project for a class. But there were 3 rounds, and there were gifts at the end for each team. So the teams kind of got to split the gifts. I don't remember what the gifts were. I think they might have been candy, but I think they might have been something else. I don't remember. Um, but yeah, I think they might host another one because I think it was well received. So for people listening, if you ever want to participate in a WODU Jeopardy game, um, yeah, I would definitely join the station, or the club, I guess you could say. And I would also go follow our Instagram, see when it pops up. Um, and yeah, I will say though, Brandon, I only have 19% on my thing left, so we might only have a few minutes left.
Yeah, no worries there. And yeah, so even though we're beginning to wrap up this conversation, first of all, it's been so great speaking with you thus far, and I know that there certainly is still a lot for us to uncover. So of course, you are always welcome to come back on here if you're ever interested for us to continue this conversation. But I did.
Well, I would love to. It's fun. It's fun to it's fun to talk and have a conversation.
I absolutely agree. But within these last few minutes, I actually did have, I guess a two-parter, one question left before we go ahead and, wrap this up. So I know too that you mentioned that you are a avid history buff and a gamer as well. So are you able to I guess briefly tell us a little bit as we're closing out?
Sure. So, when I personally mean avid gamer, I mean I play a very specific type of game, but I also kind of am all over the place. I'm kind of a non-genre specific gamer, I guess you could say. I like to play simulators. I do a lot of simulation games, such as Microsoft Flight Simulator. I also do DCS, which is Digital Combat Simulator. For people who don't know what that is, it's basically like Microsoft Flight Simulator, except it's planes. It's like military jets and older aircraft. And then we got like European and American Truck Simulator and different simulators like that. I always play fun simulators like Goat Simulator, something stupid. But then I also play serious games. I like to play a lot of RTS games. And then I play, your kind of off-brand game like Hearts of Iron 4. I play a lot of Paradox, so City Skylines, Crusader Kings. And then I play, your average first-person shooter game or third-person shooter game as well, like Fortnite, CSGO, some of your more modern games. Um, that's gaming. And then for avid history buff, man, I personally love studying about old, from anything from the American Revolution all the way to kind of modern times. So more of the modern age. So I like, Age of Sail, which is, boats, ships. I like Napoleonic warfare, Napoleon reign. I also like French Revolution, French court. That stuff interests me. I like the two world wars. That's where I spend a lot of my focus on, the two world wars and the Cold War that follows. So we got the Korean War, Vietnam War, the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, for example. So I spend a lot of my time kind of World War One plus, but I also spend a few moments here and there doing the Age of Sail and more older warfare. I keep repeating warfare because that's kind of what my MO, my thing is. I'm a warfare kind of enthusiast, a warfare historian. I like, talking about it, kind of connecting things here and there, because there's always that historical saying, which is history always repeats itself. And if you look at the world currently today, it's a real thing. It's very, very real. And people I've always had to correct people when they say, "Oh, that's not true." I'm like, if you look back at history, especially during some of these eras, like the 1930s and World War One and then World War Two, yeah, you better believe that history repeats itself because it's very true. But I'll leave that for another time. So.
Wow. Well, certainly we're going to have at some point in time, online or offline, certainly have a conversation about history, and really dive into all of that. But I definitely, like I said, want to thank you, Peyton, for speaking with us. And so as a last thing to close out, if there's anywhere that people can follow you online or hear more about you, is there anywhere that people can find you? If not, that's quite all right as well. I at least want to provide you that opportunity.
Man, let's see. I do have a Snapchat that, if, sometimes if people want to come in and discuss topics or issues or have a friendly, conversation about something that they might not agree with me on. I always do have my Snapchat. I don't remember what it is, but I think if I pull it up real quick, 1 second. It should be something like, it's all lowercase, I'm pretty sure. It is, please work phone. Yeah, so it's Peyton_Trekkie. It's all lowercase. If people wish to follow me on there and kind of have a conversation. And you can also find me on Discord, which is, it's all uppercase. It's MC space AMF, and then hashtag 1791. If you wish to have a conversation with me on there. And then that's about all my kind of more open socials, I guess you could say.
Well, that sounds great to me. And last but not least, as we close out this episode, so if anyone here watching and listening, is maybe inspired a little bit of for what you had to say, or whatever the case may be, what is a closing thought that you would like to give them to close this episode out?
A closing thought, something that I've always said this, and I will always keep saying this, which is, if people in your life tell you that, oh, you're a little bit old for this, or you're a little bit young for this, don't listen to them. Never do that. I've done that in my past. I've done that, I've done that in my past, and I've done that when I was younger. And then I proved them wrong. And I sometimes still prove them wrong every day. You are your own person, and you have a plan in life. I had a plan from when I was really young. Everybody always has a plan. And the best plan that you can ever have is the plan that you have the day you make it. You can refine that plan, you can make it better. And a good plan today is better than a plan 2 or 3 months down the line. Your plan is always the plan you make the day of is always the plan you want to go with. Sure, it can be wrong. Sure, it can have mistakes, but you can always refine it. You can always change it. 2 to 3 months down the line, when you finally come up with a better plan, it's probably just going to be the same plan, just better. So always follow your dreams. Always follow the plan that you have in front of you, and never let anybody in your life tell you you're a little bit too old or you're a little bit too young to achieve something, because you're not.
I absolutely love that. For everyone watching and listening, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Tansson Talks. I always love doing this, and yeah. But with that being said, I'll see y'all later. Take care. And that's a wrap on this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Tansson Talks show. A big thank you goes out to our sponsor, Descript, for sponsoring this episode. If you're interested in checking out transcription tools, be sure to find our affiliate link for Descript in the description of this episode. Also, if you'd like to check out any of our official merchandise, go ahead and find us at merch.tanssonmedia.com. Of course, be sure to subscribe to the Tansson Talks show on YouTube or anywhere you can find podcasts. Until next time, this has been Brandon, and I'll see y'all later. Take care.